Okay, so for this I'm going to use this satin fabric. It's a soft satin. I'm going to use it to create the base, which is the Bolero jacket, where we're going to be placing the ruffles. And then this is my organza. This is about 20 yards of organza fabric, so that is what I'm going to use. You may not use up to this, you can use more or less depending on how full you want this jacket to be, but I'm going to show you the process so you decide on how you want yours to be. We can actually draft this directly on our fabric, but for clarity I'm going to be drafting on this paper, and then we're just going to place it on our fabric to cut. So it's basically, it should be a free size, or you can grade it for small, medium, and then group it like that, because it's not going to be so tightly fitted. So I'm going to start by drafting my pattern. Here I'm marking my shoulder. The shoulder measurement that I've decided to work with is 14 inches. So 14 inches divided by 2 is going to give me 7 inches. So here I'm going to mark 7 inches, and then here I'm going to mark the neck width that I'm working with for this pattern. So here the neck width is totally up to you as well. If you want it really close, you can do 3 inches. Between 3 to 4 inches is fine for me basically, so I think I'm just going to leave it at around 3.5 inches thereabouts, but it is not too strict. So here again I'm coming down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and then I'm going to connect that to my neck point. So after that I'm going to mark my armhole measurement. Very important. So the armhole I'm working with here is 16. The round armhole is 16 inches. Divided by 2 is 8 inches. So here I'm going to mark the 8 inches. Okay, and then I'm going to make that into a straight line. So that's why I'm going to draft my armhole measurement. So for the armhole here I'm going to mark what I have here, which is 7 inches, so that I can have a straight line. And then after marking my straight line, I'm going to mark that and then divide what I have there by 2. So what you are doing is just dividing this armhole line into 2. So on that midpoint I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch, and here I'm going to mark my bust measurement. So the bust measurement I'm working with is 40 inches. So 40 inches divided by 4 is going to be 10 inches. So here I'm going to mark 10 inches. So I'm just working with arbitrary measurements here. You should work with whatever measurements that you want. So after this, now to draw my armhole curve, I'm going to point from here to here and here. So I'll try to get a curve that can take all of this for me, just like this. So once I have them, I'm going to draw my armhole curve. So it is that simple. So that's my armhole curve for the front. So the next important measurement that you're going to need for this is the length of this jacket. It's not a long jacket. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just to use this armhole line as my reference point. So from my armhole line, I think I'm just going to go 2 to 3 inches downwards, and that will be it for me. I don't want it too long. So here my armhole stops at 8 inches, so I can just do maybe 2.5 inches. So if I had 2.5 to this, I'm going to be left with around 10.5 inches, or you can do 3 inches. It's totally up to you and where you want this jacket, this sleeve to stop. Okay, but bear in mind that it is not supposed to be so long. Okay, so now the measurement that I have here, which is 10 inches, is what I'm bringing down here as well, and then I'm going to add maybe 1 inch for seam allowance, and I'm going to connect it together. So after doing this, now what I'm going to do is to go ahead and draft the back as well. Okay, so for the back, I'm just going to shift the pattern and then draft it over here. So just like we did for the front as well, I'm going to, by the way I have marked my length, the length for the front and back is going to be the same. You can see I have 10.5 inches here because we need to join them together by the side. So you will see how I'm going to try to reconcile that later. So here again, I'm going to mark the 7 inches that I marked for the front. I'm going to come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope here, I marked 3.5 inches for my neck width, so that's what I'm marking for the back as well. And then I'm going to connect it. So after marking that, I'm going to mark down 8 inches for my armhole line, and then I'm going to connect as well. Here I'm going to mark my bust measurement of 10 inches. I'll do the same thing down here. I'll add my 1 inch seam allowance to that. Okay, you can do that later on, but for now we're marking the armhole line. So the 7 inches that I mark here, I'm going to mark here as well, and then I'm going to connect in a straight line for my armhole line, which is here. Remember, for the front we got the midpoint and came in by 1/2 inch, but for the back we're not going to do that. I'm just going to connect like this for my back armhole. Okay, so here I have marked 1 inch for my seam allowance. I'm just going to connect like this, and now my pattern is done. So now the next thing is for us to start. You can see that I did not touch the neck depth. Okay, so now we are going to start restructuring this pattern to fit what we want to work on. Okay, so like I said, the front is open. The front of the jacket is opened. Is an open front jacket, so we don't really need a neckline here. So what I'm going to do, this is my neck point. Remember the 3.5 inches that I measured for my neck width here. I'm going to take a curved ruler. Okay, the curved ruler is advisable. It makes it easier for you, although you can still use your free hand, but I'm using this curved ruler. I'm going to work with this curved ruler, so I'm going to be placing it on this neck point. Okay, and then I'm going to connect it to the hem. So now how you place this curved ruler depends on how opened you want this chest area to be. If you don't want it so opened, you can just come in a bit, or you just maneuver your curve. Just make sure that it suits whatever it is that you're trying to achieve by the time you're done. So I think I'm okay with what I have here for my front. It's totally up to you. So if I draw this curve like this, it means this whole part is going to be opened, which I think is okay, which I think is fine for me. So now after getting it like that, you can see I'm connecting from this neck point all the way to the 10.5 inches, which is my hem, just to find a smooth perfect curve like this. You want everything to just flow like that. You can see what we have here. So all of this is going to be opened. So like I said, if you don't want it this opened, if you want it to be a little bit close in front, all you just need to do is to make sure that when you're creating this curve, you can see if I draw my curve this way. Okay, so let me just try to draw it so that you can see the difference in what I'm saying. So if I place my curved ruler this way and then I draw out this curve, you can see that this is going to close up more for me. It's not going to be as open as what I have here. So like I said, it's based on your preference and what you want. So now we're done with shaping the neckline for the front. Now we're going to move to the back. So for the back, I'm going to first create a neck depth for my back. So for the back, depending on how deep you want the neck to be as well, so I'm going to mark around 1.5 inches for me, okay, for the neck depth, and I'm going to connect that to the neck width first, just like this. So after that, now we're going to create the shape that we want for the back. So if you check the back of the jacket, is not so full, it's not long, it's not what we have here that we have on the back. So again, depending on what you want, I'm marking from my starting point here. So I think 5 inches is okay for my center back. This is the center back, so I think a length of 5 inches, 5 to 6 inches is fine for me. So I'll just leave it at around 5 to 5.5 inches, which is here. So after noting where I want my center back to be, you can see this is the side, so we need to reconcile it with this as well. So what I'm going to do again is just to bring in my curved ruler again, and then from where this point stops, I'm going to place it like this and then connect it. You can connect it to your seam allowance here if you don't even want to have so much at the back. You can connect it directly from your seam allowance here, and that will be it for you. So here now we're pressing it like this and then connecting. Okay, so you can see the shape that we have for the back now. So it is as simple as that. This is going to be the base for the jacket that we're creating. So now I'm going to grab my scissors and then I'm going to cut out what I have here. So when you are cutting this on your fabric, make sure that the center points are cut on fold, okay, for the back. And then for the front, you're going to have 2 pieces, because the center front is going to be open, it's not going to be closed. But for the back, I want it to be closed. I'm not putting a hook or a zipper or anything, so I'm going to be cutting that part on fold. So here now I'm cutting out the neckline, I'm cutting the shoulder slope, and then I'll go ahead and cut my armhole. So that is it for the back. You can see how simple it is to create this pattern. So when you're drafting on your pattern as well, on your fabric, I'm just going to add few allowances. I'm not going to add allowance to the side seam anymore, because I already had 1 inch, but just around it so that I can easily sew it. So that's the back. And then for the front, I'm cutting out my armhole as well. I'm cutting the side. Okay, so now we're going to cut the shoulder and then decide on the curve that we're going with for the front. Okay, are we going for the opened curve, which is this, or we're going for the a little bit closed one? But I think I'm just going to go for the opened curve. Okay, and like I said, your neck width does not have to be 3.5 inches as well. If you don't want it that open, you can just go with 3 inches. Okay, you can go with 3 inches or 2.5 inches. It's totally up to you. So this is my front. This is going to be the front pattern, and this is going to be the back pattern. So you can see that they still meet here, because we have to join them together by this side. So the side has to be the same. Okay, I hope you understand this. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut this on my pattern, on my fabric. So I'll cut this part on fold, and then for the front I'm just going to cut 2. Okay, you cut 2 pieces, then you cut this one on fold. So if you're going to be lining this, it means, and you're using the same fabric, I'm going to be using the same fabric for the lining as well. So I just cut 4 of this and then cut 2 of this on fold, so that I can cut my lining and main fabric together. For the sleeve, you can cut your sleeve the regular way you cut it. Like I said, I cut with freehand, so I'm just going to show you how I cut my sleeve. So for that, you're going to need your full sleeve length. For this, I'm working with a sleeve length of 23 inches, so I'm going to mark that here. That's my full sleeve length. And then you're going to need your armhole measurement. The armhole you're working with here is 8 inches, so I am going to mark 8 inches like this, and then I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance to that. Okay, so that's 9 inches. I'm going to mark it all around like this, and then try to make this into a straight line so that we can see the space that we're working with. So we just need this rectangle that we have here. That's the space we're going to be working with. Okay, so now here I'm going to come, this is going to be the fold point of my sleeve. So this like the center fold for the sleeve, while this side is going to be the side. So here on the side, I'm going to mark 3.5 inches for my cap's height. Okay, if it's for a big person, you can do 4 inches. So after that, now I'm going to connect from this cap's height of 3.5 inches to the head of the sleeve, which is here. So after connecting like that, I'm going to divide this diagonal line into 4. Okay, so I'll divide into 2 first, and then I'm going to divide these 2 into 4 again. So this is how I cut my sleeve, but you can work with any sleeve pattern that you normally work with. So now for this, For the first portion coming from the head of the sleeve, not the side, from the head for the first portion, I'm going to go out by 0.75 inches. That's 3/4 of an inch. And then on the middle part, I'm going to leave it as it is. And then on the third portion, I'm going to come inwards by 1/2 inch. So here for the first one, you do 0.75. I'm going to leave the middle one, and then I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch for the third one. So what we are doing is connecting from here to the middle, to this and to this. So here now I'm using my curved ruler, and then I'm going to try to take it in bits. So here I'm finding the space that is going to give me what I want. So once I have the 3 points together, I'm going to go ahead and connect them. Okay, so once we have it like this, I'm going to connect like this first, and then again I'm going to turn it and connect from here to here, and then to the last portion. Make sure the connections are as smooth as possible. You don't want any parts to be looking sharp. Okay, so I'm just trying to blend in everything like this. So this is for the front. Now for the back, I'm just going to connect from here all the way to the hem. That is what I'm going to do for the back. So it is that simple. So here I'm placing it like this, and then I'm connecting like this. So this is for my back armhole, and then this is for the front. Okay, so now that is done. For the hem of the sleeve, we don't want it to be so tightly fitted. So you can see I am doing this, so you just make it as free as you want. So I think I'm just going to work with what I have here, around 13 inches. So dividing that into 2 is going to give me 6.5. So here from the center fold, I'm going to mark the 6.5 inches, and then you can just add like 1/2 inch or 1 inch for your seam allowance. Then after that, I'm going to connect with this curve from the side, just like this. Okay, so please get a very nice curve that can give you something good. So once I place it like this, I'm going to go ahead and connect. Okay, and that is what I'm doing for my sleeve. Okay, so you can see that the hem of the sleeve is almost the same width with the starting point, which is the head. That's because I don't want this part to be so tightly fitted, and at the same time I want their width to be similar, so that when I'm creating the ruffles, it's going to make the work a lot easier for me, as against if the hem is just narrow like the regular sleeve that we have. Okay, so that is why I made it like that. So now I'm going to cut this sleeve as well, and then I'll go ahead and cut all of them on my fabric, both the sleeve and the body sleeve and the main bodies that we have drafted earlier. So I'll cut everything on my fabric. So now when you're cutting the armhole for the sleeve, we're just going to cut the back first. Okay, so after cutting the back, we're going to use it to cut the front. That's because you can see that I did not cut this on fold. I'm using just this pattern. Okay, I'm going to show you how I'll do that. Okay, so now I have cut it on my fabric. This is the front, and like I said, I added allowances all around it. You can see that I did not add allowance on the side because I already added my 1 inch seam allowance while cutting. So here I have 4, because I'm using the same fabric for both lining and main fabric. So if you are using different fabric, you cut 2 for your lining and then 2 for your main fabric. So I have cut 4 for my front, and then for the back I put this part on fold. Okay, you can see this part is on fold so that I can cut them together, and then I just cut out 2. So here on the side I did not add any allowance, but I added allowance around where I'm going to sew. So let me remove this pin now so that you can see what we have for the back. You will see that the back is together. Okay, so this is what we have at the back. It's going to be cut together because it is on fold. So like I said, if you don't want your back to be this low, you just need to come up a little bit more and then connect just like that. Okay, it's totally up to you and the design that you're aiming to get for your back. So you just need to just brace it as high as you want when you're drafting. So this is the back and this is the front. So what we need to do now is to go ahead and join them together by the shoulder and the sides, and then I'm going to use the lining to turn the neckline area so that it can be neat. So you can see I have four for my front. Okay, so this is it, and then this is the back. So I'm going to be placing the back on it and then join the shoulder and the side. Okay, but most importantly, I'm going to join the shoulder of the front and back together, and then do the same thing for the lining to turn out each other. I may still leave this side so that it's going to be easier for us to sew the organza to it. So that is it for the bodies. For the sleeve as well, I have gone ahead to cut my sleeve. So like I said, I'm going to be cutting the back neckline first because the front is a little deeper. So you can see I have this as my back. So now to cut the front, what I'm going to do is just to open it out like this. You can notch the midpoint, and then I'm going to cut the pattern that I have for my front. Now that I have already cut the back, so I'm going to be shaping out the pattern that I drafted for the front. Another way you can do this is just to cut your pattern on fold. Okay, you don't want to start doing it separately like this. So here now I'm going to place it. So this is the midpoint. Now I'm placing it like this. So after placing it like this, now I'll grab my fabric scissors and now I can shape out the front neckline. I have the two sides, by the way, so I had them folded on each other, right side facing right side, so you can see. So these are my two sleeves. I have drafted it, so you can notch the center. I'm going to notch the center point now. So now we are done with all the cutting and drafting. So I'm going to go ahead and join them together and bring it back to show us what we have. Okay, so I have gone ahead to join the shoulder together, you can see. So after joining the shoulder together, what I did was just to place the lining and the main fabric on each other, and then I sew it all around. So I just left this armhole area to turn it out because I'm not lining the sleeve. Okay, so now I'm going to notch it. This is the hem of the back. You can see that it is curved that way. So now I'm notching it so that I can relax well, and by the time I turn it out, everywhere is going to be neatly turned. So after notching, I'm just going to turn it out, and then you can go ahead and iron it so that you can have something as neat as possible before we sew the shoulder, and then we'll place our organza on it. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to go ahead and iron this now. Okay, so when I iron it, it's going to relax more, but before then I'm going to try to sew in my sleeve as well on the armhole area. Okay, so this is what I have. This is the front, this is the other side of the front, so we need to iron it, and then this is the back. Okay, so this is what I have on the back. So I'm going to sew in my sleeve here and then iron. Okay, so now I ironed it a little bit. You can see that it's a little bit relaxing now. So this is the front and this is the back. Okay, so this is the front and this is what we have at the back. So I have joined my sleeve to it. Okay, I joined the sleeve to it. If you mark your sleeve the way I did, is going to be exactly on the same point. Okay, you're not going to run into any issues there. But like I said, they're going to be adding ruffles to this, so we don't want to close it up yet this will make your adding your ruffle a lot easier. Okay, so now this is the sleeve for the first side, this is the sleeve for the second side. I hope you still understand what this pattern looks like. Let me try to explain it. So you can see this is the back, this is the neckline for the back, and this is the shape that we created for our back. You can see that it is a little bit tiny here because that's what I want it. If you want yours to be wider, you know, you just need to cuff it anyhow you want it. So now this is the back and this is the front. So you can see this is the shoulder where we join them together, and this is the front. So now folding it over like this is my front. Okay, so you can see, and you can see the shape that we created for the front as well. So you can see the opening that we have here. So like I said, if you don't want yours to be this opened, when you're cuffing it, you make sure that you cuff it very well. Then after that, I went ahead to add my sleeve, but you can see that it is still opened. I have not closed this up on the underarm area. That's because I need to sew it to, I need to sew my jacket, my organza to it. I need to sew this organza to it, and when I close it up, it's going to be a little bit difficult. So it's going to be so much easier when everything is still opened up now. So now the first thing we need to do is to mark how the organza is going to be, how the ruffles are going to be. So you can place it anyhow you want. This is where your creativity comes in. You can decide to add organza to the body separately and the sleeve separately, or you can add them together, which is what I think I'm going to be doing. I want it to be continuous from the sleeve all the way to the bodies, because the sub body is not so much. You can see it's just a little bit space that we have there. So I want everything to be continuous for each of the side. So to achieve this, what I'm going to do first is to divide my back. Okay, this is the back, so I'm going to note the center back. To do this, you just need to put the shoulder together and fold. Okay, so you can see now clearly, we can see our back. This is my center back. This part is what I am marking, this part. Okay, this part where we put it on fold, that's my center back. So I'm just going to chalk it on that point so that when I open it out, I can draw it out. Okay, I just hope this chalk is showing well. Okay, so now this is going to be the center back. So now we have successfully divided this jacket that we have here into two. So we have the right side and then we have the left side. The right side first from the center back all the way to the front of the right and then to the sleeve, while the same thing is happening on the left side.